Chapter 71 Arrangement. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After lunch, Roman called Jimmy to him. This was a yellow-haired boy who looked even thinner than Cow, like a girl. The latter had a well-proportioned, smooth and agile body. Although he was also underage, he had masculinity. Jimmy looked like a refugee, skinny, with his ribs clearly visible. His foundation was seriously damaged and he obviously hadn't recovered in the past few days. Roman asked, "How is your study progress recently?" Jimmy was so nervous that he couldn't speak. Should he say good or bad? Roman held his chin with his hand, his movements were very elegant, and he looked at the somewhat embarrassed little apostle with some amusement, and asked again, "What number can you count now?" The child saw him smile, and his voice was magnetic, and it felt a little itchy when it fell into his ears. He somehow relaxed and said in a mosquito-like voice, 100. "Tell me." He whispered, 1, 2, 3. Jimmy got a little stuck when he counted to 53, but he quickly overcame it. Roman did not urge him and waited patiently for him to count to 100. In his opinion, 100 numbers were obviously not Jimmy's limit. "How many letters do you know?" "All of them." "What about words?" "I know about 50. "Can you write your own name?" Jimmy shook his head. The reason why he knew more than 50 words was that Hans Inkerman only taught more than 50 simple words. In order to ensure the overall teaching progress, the two taught very slowly. In fact, they had no choice. Let them stand in a circle in an open area and then teach. There are no textbooks. It all depends on the mouth. Whether you can understand it depends on the individual. Facing more than 300 children, they are thirsty every day and take turns to play. What they teach is the basics of the basics. Sometimes they feel desperate about this boring job, but they have to do it under the pressure of Roman. They get a salary of 1.2 gold coins a year, so they have to do things. Some learn fast, some learn slowly, and Jimmy is obviously the fastest learner. "How old are you this year?" "Mom said I'm 13 years old." "Where is your father?" "Dad is dead." "What do you want to do in the future?" "Grow sheep for the steward." "My father was drowned with the sheep when he was herding sheep for the steward." "Mom said that our family owed the steward a sheep. The steward lost the sheep but ate the mutton, and he lost his father but owed the steward a sheep. They all have a bright future. Don't herd sheep anymore. Come and work for me." Jimmy obviously didn't understand what Roman meant. He looked dull and had low EQ. He was still thinking about the sheep. After a slight hesitation, he lowered his head and said helplessly, "I'll listen to you, Lord." Roman turned to Seth and said, "Seth, let him follow you in the future. He will be a little clerk first. He has a good memory. You can say more. It doesn't matter if he doesn't understand. He will understand slowly in the future." Seth saw the whole process and had to admit that the little guy in front of him was a promising talent. Not all children can master 100 numbers and letters in 3 months. The education system of this era is monopolistic because of the high cost of education, but there is no difference in IQ. Geniuses can appear among civilians and idiots among nobles, but the status of a clerk is much higher than that of an ordinary steward. A child should not be allowed to take up such an important position. He firmly opposed it. Take him in as a student and teach him well. Roman said it very clearly. Seth took Jimmy away with a solemn expression. He firmly opposed the dirty and lowly appearance of the secretary of the Origin Manor, and he must train him to be a qualified secretary. Since Roman said that he had a good memory, he would slowly tell him what a qualified secretary should look like, what he should do in the future, and what rights he should have. Next, Roman arranged all the valuable apostles he selected one by one, greatly improving their status. Let them adapt to the work first and develop command and management capabilities, but Roman must always pay attention to their growth progress. Let them come to him every day to report their work, and then Roman will clearly tell them how to do things, so that the apostles he recruited will not grow up and become another group of stale stewards. In that case, Roman's resources will be wasted. Then it is the distribution of those slaves. The quality of the slaves brought by Dakin is not very good. There are 70 or 80 sick and weak people. They can't do heavy physical labor, and can't do road paving, mining and ironmaking. Roman asked them to do some light handicraft work, or to cook in the dining room, look after children under 5 years old, and lead the pigs and sheep in the livestock shed to graze anyway. The town of Stjur does not keep waste. Then, he selected the slaves, who stood at the end in the morning with good physical fitness and willpower, and let them freely choose to join the guards or the blacksmiths. Most slaves chose to become guards. So far, the number of guards has directly expanded to more than 60 people, which is still a little too few, so let's take it slowly. There are also 5 more laborers in the blacksmith shop, after the hydraulic forging hammer. The labor force is greatly liberated, but it does not mean that the manpower can be reduced. Roman asked them to take turns working day and night. As long as the river is flowing, the hydraulic hammer can't stop for a moment. Roman didn't forge weapons or armor, but asked them to forge various steel farm tools and tools as quickly as possible. Among them, shovels, pickaxes and axes are indispensable, and the improvement of work efficiency is not a little bit. The workers at the salt mine were also supplemented, and a total of 50 slaves joined the task of mining rock salt. And the last 100 slaves joined the paving team. The improvement in efficiency was immediate. The daily construction progress almost doubled. After Roman arranged all the slave dispatches in detail, he turned around and hired all the construction workers in Siggy town. They followed Roman's instructions to build simple long houses to serve as resettlement houses for slaves. It would definitely be a problem if they always lived in shelters. They couldn't shelter from the wind and rain. Once it rained, at least a quarter of the slaves would get sick. 3 days passed. Roman came to Vic's carpenter's shed. Like Lux, Vic also renovated and expanded the carpenter's shop. The original small workshop could not keep up with the production tasks assigned by Roman. Now it is gradually becoming a wood processing plant. Piles of wood are piled up like mountains, and wood chips and sawdust cover the ground, which is more than 10 centimeters thick. They can be used as fertilizer in the future. Vic is leading people to make wooden handles for shovels and axes. Since the hydraulic forging hammer was invented, the output of the blacksmith shed has increased rapidly, and dozens of sharp shovels and hoes can be forged every day. Compared with blacksmiths, the threshold for carpenters is lower, so Vic has many helpers and many things to do. For example, the cooper has to make more than 10 wooden barrels for the origin manor every day, and he doesn't know what to put in them. But qualified carpenters have not appeared yet, because Roman has very high requirements for carpenters. They must be skilled and able to make wheels and carriages, various wooden basins, wooden bowls, wooden plates, various furniture and farm tools alone. Anyway, they can be independent in all aspects. According to Vicky's prediction, in 2 months, his former apprentices and slaves will become real carpenters, and he will also be rewarded with gold coins promised by Roman. Master Roman, why are you here? Vicky knew that Roman valued blacksmiths more than carpenters, so the Lord often went to Lax and rarely came to him. I came for the summer harvest. Chapter 72 Summer Harvest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's the 100th day when Roman comes to Siggy town. He stayed at the wood factory for several days and finally mastered the manufacturing skill, level 2 forging, 0/380. Milestone unlock, craft work. Craft work, obtain 500 rough stones. Compared with other skills, this skill was more complicated and vast. Roman felt a torrent of knowledge pouring out of his mind. The 9 life skills are like 9 different seeds. They take root and sprout by absorbing experience values, become entangled and intertwined, overlap in the growth process, and finally work together to grow into a complete technology tree with lush branches and deep roots. Roman vaguely knew what effect each skill would have after being upgraded, and what changes the cooperation of multiple skills would bring. Roman hopes that manufacturing skills can reduce the labor and time required for summer harvest. He was disappointed, although he has illuminated various skills such as stone, pottery, tiles, textiles and woodworking. It has even improved his purity as an innate earthwork body, an innate blacksmithing body, and an innate chef body. However, this knowledge is not a huge improvement to agriculture. In fact, even if he was given the manufacturing blueprints for the harvester, he would not be able to knock out the large machine with his bare hands using a hammer. Roman had no choice but to resort to local methods. Use an iron rake to scrape a layer of floating soil, and then sprinkle on the chaff. Let the miners at the quarry use wedges and hammers to chisel out hundreds of stone rollers. The oxen and draft horses roll the stone rollers around. watering and grinding them. Press the land flat and solid, and turn it into a threshing floor. This threshing floor covers 10 acres of land. He gave the drawings of the valley windmill, and he and Vicky built 20 valley windmills. If you don't prepare in advance, it will be very time-consuming. To harvest wheat, the steps involved are complex. It mainly focuses on 3 aspects: harvesting, threshing and separation. The time and manpower consumed by these 3 items is difficult to calculate. If the overall efficiency is not improved, will manpower be wasted on this? In constant busyness, in the blink of an eye, 20 days have passed. Early summer flies by in a blink of an eye. Roman did nothing else but put all his energy into making the windmill and rolling out the threshing floor. Mori came again during this period. They brought 19 oxen and 40 draft horses to Roman. Not only did they meet the promise of 50 oxen and 100 draft horses, they also gave Roman a few more oxen as extra heads. Roman has only planted 2,000 acres of land this year, and the rest of the fields are covered with weeds, making it easy to graze and harvest. They are not capable of transporting goods around the clock. You can make a person work 10 hours a day, but you certainly can't make cattle and horses work 10 hours a day. A farm cow needs to eat 60 or 70 kilograms of forage every day, otherwise it will not be able to work. Some of the forage comes from grazing, and some comes from manual harvesting. The fodder for drafting horses is somewhat less, because the grains and beans are mixed with grains and beans, and their calories and nutrients are several times higher than those of weeds. Moreover, it is not the time to get busy yet, so the difficulty of raising them is not high. According to Mori, he contacted a nobleman on the plateau and purchased a large number of draft horses from him, if Roman still needs it. Later, he can continue to send more livestock. However, Roman has no shortage of horses for the time being. He instead asked Mori to purchase another type of cattle and horses in large quantities. He wants as much as he has. Mori left Sigi town with 80 barrels of maltose and 40,000 kilograms of salt, bringing Roman an income of more than 100 gold coins. Following closely behind were Mori's brothers and sisters. They brought another 3,500 kilograms of iron ingots and took away 70,000 kilograms of salt. After having enough iron ingots, Roman asked Lux to continue building a heavy plow for summer plowing. Secondly, the work of the road construction team is over. With enough sharp shovels and hoes, more than 500 people can pave more than 1 kilometer of road every day. The only restriction on their paving speed is the insufficient amount of lime. For this reason, a lime kiln was built, and trees were cut down continuously to burn lime. They finished paving the road 7 days before the summer harvest. As a reward, Roman specially gave them all a day off to let them relax, and the free meals would not be interrupted. After the rest, he rushed them non-stop to collect fertilizer for summer farming. When this summer comes, the summer harvest has arrived as promised. That neat golden wheat field, like an ocean, row after row, was so densely planted, not sparse at all, it could be called crowded, completely breaking through their understanding of the land. The wheat ears, which were so densely packed that it was impossible to count them and with no end in sight, were shining brightly in the bright sunshine. The wheat straw is tall and the wheat seeds are full. The ears are surrounded by knots, and the fruits are so heavy that the wheat stalks hang down. Every wheat husk and every ear of wheat seems to be shining with divine brilliance. Anyone who came here, whether they were ordinary farmers who witnessed their growth, or warrior knights like Green and Aaron, felt the shock from the bottom of their hearts. Deep in their hearts, a great respect arises spontaneously. Gazing at this land devoutly like a pilgrim, in this farming era, only food is the basis for survival. In some extreme cases, food is far more precious than gold, silver, jewelry, steel, and salt. Everyone will be moved by this scene. What are you doing standing still? Move now. Roman kicked the disheartened Green. By the way, I called you here to cut wheat. Don't think that just because you are handsome, you can stop going to the fields. All farmers are waking up from a dream. They had been cultivating the land for more than 10 years, but now faced with this dense wheat field, they didn't know how to start, until Roman picked up the sledge knife. This farm tool was like a horizontal guillotine. With one swing, Roman harvested 7 or 8 crops of wheat. Yes, he and the 2 war knights also had to participate in the work, and the farmers were used to the Lord working in the fields often. The Samarium knife is extremely efficient, allowing a young man to harvest 5 acres of land in one day. In comparison, the sickle is nothing. The only drawback is that it is too heavy. People who are not strong enough will not be able to hold on for a while and need to change. Only young laborers with good physique or war knights can use this agricultural tool for a long time. Roman asked Lux and Vicky to create 100 samarium knives. The investment in these agricultural tools was necessary and could be used in the future. Everyone also started to get busy. They practice how to use it ahead of time. 100 samarium knives can equal 500 acres of land in one day. Green and Aaron looked at each other. Both of them were sweating. Now I have no choice but to join the harvesting team with my samarium knife. Their physiques are excellent. Although they are not used to using farm tools, they can quickly master the basic usage after using them for a while. Roman, Aaron, and Green's harvesting efficiency was unparalleled. The scene was like unparalleled mowing, and the pace was very steady. The three men worked together to harvest nearly 30 acres of land. Someone behind them kept throwing the wheat straw they harvested onto the carriage, and then transported it to the threshing floor. The division of labor was clear. By evening, everyone in charge of harvesting had sore arms. The scorching sun, busy traffic, and smoke and dust are the true portrayal of this moment. Dozens of horse-drawn carriages loaded with wheat straw were continuously transported to the threshing floor in Siggy Town. The workers in the threshing floor spread it on the valley floor and let the oxen and draft horses push the stone rollers back and forth to thresh the grains. The labor lasted for 4 days as expected. Then all the wheat was harvested. Harvesting is easy and transportation is easy, but threshing is more time-consuming. You have to keep crushing it with stone rollers without stopping for a moment. Roman mobilized all the large animals for this purpose, and even the carriages transporting salt were mobilized, allowing the salt miners to temporarily store the purified salt at the salt mine. The wide threshing floor allows them to drag stone rollers around, and beat them repeatedly with flails in areas that cannot be pressed. The farmer used a wooden fork to shovel away the wheat straw with the wheat kernels removed, and built it into a tall wheat stack. Another group of people used wooden shovels to pour the wheat grains into the windmill and used the wind generated by the windmill to separate the wheat husks and wheat grains. A grain windmill can clean thousands of kilograms of wheat grains every day. Chapter 73 Drinking Together. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The summer harvest task is very heavy, and everyone has to get up before 5 o'clock in the morning. They work for more than 10 hours every day and can only go home to rest at 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. The large kitchen is responsible for the food supply. Extremely strong squeezing creates extremely high efficiency. However, the joy of harvest is not diminished by half. In this era of hunger, poverty, and hardship, it is a wonderful thing to be able to harvest so much food with your own hands. On the 10th day of the summer harvest, all the ears of wheat turned into heavy grains, which began to be dried and can be stored in the barn in 3 days. According to calculations, a total of over 700,000 jeans of wheat was harvested this time. Roman was extremely dissatisfied, sifting seeds, fertilizing, plowing deeply. There is no doubt that this is an agricultural revolution that changes everything, innovates everything, and brings about earth-shaking changes. He chose the flattest, most fertile and most fertile land in Siggy Town. 30 kilograms of wheat seeds were planted per acre of land, and 100 people were arranged to weed, fertilize, and top dress. However, the result did not even reach the expected 120. The average yield per moo is only over 300 kilograms, and the yield per moo has only increased 5 or 6 times compared to before. Of course, it is quite shocking to see wheat plants become 5 or 6 times denser. However, the actual result is only to sow and reap 12. 1 grain of wheat buried in the soil cannot even yield 20 grains of wheat. What kind of land is this? My innate plowing body is actually fake. In fact, Roman felt bad when he saw the wheat straw that was more than 1 meter high. Damn it! The nutrients he fertilized allowed the wheat to grow taller, but it failed to concentrate the nutrients on the ears. Secondly, the ear-forming rate after tillering was also very low, less than 10%. In 100 wheat seeds. Just a few wheat seeds grew 2 ears of wheat, and this is related to wheat breeding and improvement. After calculating the accurate output, Roman's face became a little ugly. Although the food was enough to feed everyone in Siggy Town, the failure to meet expectations still made him feel unhappy. The happy farmers suddenly saw the Lord's face gloomy, and couldn't help but feel a thump in their hearts. They didn't know why the Lord was unhappy in this harvest season. they remembered that the Lord had said that he would share the harvest with them. Are they regretting it now? But if they regret it, they won't have much complaints. 3 free meals a day are enough to fill their bellies. From a survival point of view, there is really no need for the Lord to continue to distribute food to them, as long as they can work every day and keep working and eating. The atmosphere in the threshing floor suddenly became tense, and the cheering voices gradually weakened. Roman, who was thinking, also discovered this anomaly. He collected his emotions, asked Seth to tidy up his clothes, and then went to the high platform of the threshing floor. He said loudly, "You have done a good job. This is barely a good harvest. I promised not to let any of you starve to death. Now it seems that we have a foundation. The output here is enough to feed everyone, including you. But this is just the beginning. There will be more things waiting for you to do in the future. You can only obey because you have no right to oppose any of my orders. I say it again. You idiots. I have no reason to indulge your stupidity. All resources must be in my hands, and everyone must move forward according to my orders. You can only obey. 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 Disobey, just die." His chest rose and fell. He finished explaining his violent will, breathed a long sigh of relief, and then said, "There will be a harvest celebration here tomorrow. You can leave now and come back at noon tomorrow." After Roman said that, he jumped off the high platform. Surrounded by a group of managers, he left the threshing floor. The farmers belatedly understood the meaning of the last sentence. "I am quite used to the tone of the first half of the sentence." They began to whisper. "Want to come here for dinner tomorrow?" "Maybe." The master said there was a celebration. "Do you want to ask Mr. Moore?" "Then you go and ask. That I always feel like I understand, but I don't seem to understand." Wait until the next day. The farmers who came early finally understood the value of the Lord's last words. The delicious food that caught their eyes almost filled their field of vision. Dozens of fans of pork were wrapped on wooden sticks and placed on top of the fire. Next to it were dozens of roasted sheep, which were also roasted until they were fat and oily, sizzling with oil. The guards, who were former hunters, were not responsible for maintaining order, but served as temporary chefs, under the command of Chef Bob, to handle the ingredients. From time to time, they would brush a layer of maltose on the skin of the barbecue. The pork looked sweet, fragrant and tender. Hundreds of tables are arranged neatly. And there was bread all over the table, not black bread, but white bread. Placed in baskets, more than 20 large baskets were filled with fragrant and soft white bread. They were covered with white linen cloth, but not completely. A corner was exposed. The tender white bread was more enchanting than the most lustful prostitute. Next to it is the baked pork pie, which is delicious and stacked half a meter high. Pan-fried trout, steamed sea bass, boiled lamprey, all the plump fish caught from the meandering rivers were brought to the table. There were hundreds of them, all of which were treated with lemon juice, onions, ginger and garlic to remove their smell. All the wooden barrels were opened, and inside were clear and transparent beer. Roman arranged for the servants to brew beer in the manner. In this era, beer brewing only required fermentation, and the brewing knowledge he gained from cooking was undoubtedly more advanced. There are 5,000 kilograms of beer here. A full 100 barrels were filled with 50-kilogram wooden barrels. If it was to be sold, this barrel of refined beer would have to sell for at least 4 or 5 copper coins. That's not all. There were 10 large iron pots next to them, and 5 of them were stewing soft broth with spices, and the meat bones were almost coming out. The rest of the iron pots were mixed vegetable soup, oatmeal porridge, boiled water, noodle soup, and all kinds of things. Hundreds of kilograms of maltose were neatly placed on the long table, which could be used to dip meat, bread, and oatmeal porridge. In the outside world, this thing was calculated according to the price of silver coins, but now it can be enjoyed to the fullest. A large amount of cheese, eggs, apples, green olives, and figs bought from the caravan were displayed in a dazzling array. In the middle of the long table in the middle, a roasted whole cow weighing 300 or 400 kilograms was placed. emitting an enticing aroma. Such rich and abundant food was enough to satisfy everyone. All the people in Siggy town were dumbfounded when they arrived. Perhaps it was because the scene was so big that they were frightened and could not believe that it was prepared for them. No one dared to take the roasted meat and food that made them salivate. They all restrained their hands tacitly. Even if a child tried to grab it, he was stopped by an adult. Roman sat on the highest seat belonging to the Lord. Today was the 131st day since he came to Siggy town. Roman raised the exquisite wine glass brought from the Grand Duke's territory, which contained clear beer. He was tall and straight, with a heroic face and a solemn expression. Everyone stared at Roman, their lord, their ruler. Those eyes were warm and full of expectation. They heard Roman say, "Today, all food is available in unlimited quantities. I will drink with you." Chapter 74 Sanaa's Goal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Roman took the first sip of wine. Everyone burst into warm and huge cheers, as if a pot had exploded. The silent threshing floor suddenly turned into the busiest market. Everyone rushed to get all kinds of delicacies. There is no doubt that this is a carnival celebration. Roman prepared for this celebration for more than half a month. At least 10,000 kilograms of meat alone were prepared, and he was busy from dawn to dawn. Freshly baked white bread was also delivered here continuously, enough for everyone in Siggy town to eat from dawn to dusk. They ate meat with big mouthfuls, eating until the sky was dark. They drank with big mouthfuls, getting drunk. Except for the prohibition of taking away, you can eat whatever you want here. An unlimited supply refers to the buffet. After a certain delicacy is finished, it will be prepared as soon as possible. After the roasted sheep is finished, 10 more will be killed. After the maltose is finished, 10 more barrels will be moved from the origin manor. After the beer is finished, 20 more barrels will be moved. After the broth is finished, it can be cooked and stewed immediately. If you can't finish it today, it will become tomorrow's work meal. With these hundreds of thousands of kilograms of grain, the days of being short of money and having to calculate the surplus grain every day are gone forever. The grain harvested this time means that everyone in Siggy town, including babies, can get 300 kilograms of grain, which is pure staple food. He has not stopped purchasing grain from the outside world, but compared with the past, the amount of purchase is much less now. Moreover, this land can continue to grow more crops. Roman will plan to expand the scope of cultivation tomorrow. If the quality is not enough, the quantity will make up. Anyway, the grain output must be increased. Next year's per capita grain can be increased to more than 1,000 kilograms. Starve to death. Humph. It's better to die of bloating. At this time, Roman frowned slightly and waved his hand. More came over very sensibly. Roman said lightly, "Watch it, don't let them die of bloating." More suddenly realized and passed the order down. Soon, the entire threshing floor was filled with shouts from guards and stewards, especially the slaves. The hunger they once experienced would make them forget everything else, and eating themselves to death was no joke. Roman sat at the same table with Yalin, Green, and the candidate night cow. Their table was not in the form of a buffet, but was filled with exquisite meat slices, deer antler soup, honey roast, and the most classic white bread. There were even nutritious tonics such as bear bile and wild boar heart that Roman had hunted in the past. Yalin and Green ate with relish, and Cow's eating movements were precise and elegant, more like a formal night than the 2 formal nights. "Master Roman, how often can such a celebration be held?" Gavel's voice came from the side. Roman turned his head and saw Gavel's blushing face, and Cow's sister Sana was next to him. "It will be held every time there is a good harvest, depending on the specific situation." "Have you drunk?" He frowned a little, as if she knew she had done something wrong. Gwyler said very quietly, "I drank a little bit." After she said that, her face flushed, and she looked straight at Roman with her watery, pure brown eyes like a deer. Roman said, "Today is fine, but not at other times." Gwyler said softly. She lowered her head and gently turned the toes of her right foot. "Don't drink too much, go and have fun." Roman touched her head. This action immediately made Gwyler's eyes bend. She smiled and nodded hard, and rushed to the threshing ground with Sanaa. Sanaa said to her enviously on the way, "Gwyler, you have a good relationship with Master Roman." Gwyler could not hide her inner smile. "I am Roman's attendant." "Wow! You called the master's name." Hearing Sanaa yelling, although she had heard it many times, Gwyler was still a little proud. Brother Green and Brother Aaron also call him that. We, the attendants, can call him that. Your brother can do the same in the future. I asked my brother, and he was very angry. He thought I didn't know the rules. Even in private, I have to be respectful. Sana felt wronged. Then there is no way. If you were also a attendant, you could call Roman's name. It was just an ordinary sentence, but Sana heard boasting, pride, and some hidden joy, as if she had secretly eaten candy. This made Sana feel a little uncomfortable. She pursed her lips. Gwyl never calls him by his name in front of Master Roman, right? You just told me that you didn't dare to let Master Roman hear it. Gwyl's expression suddenly froze. Who said I didn't dare? Then the next time we see Master Roman, you call him by his name. Gwyl was speechless. She imitated Roman's appearance, snorted lightly, pretended to be indifferent, and took out a sachet from her arms. Roman gave me a gift. What's wrong with calling him by his name? He won't be angry. Gavel held the sachet tightly, as if talking to herself or seeking affirmation, and she became more and more confident. Look. She showed the sachet to Sana. The moment the fisherman's daughter saw the sachet, she felt her stomach churning. The feeling of suffocation seemed to bring her back to the darkest moment of her life. Her parents fell in a pool of blood, the turbulent river in the Silver Dragon Canyon, the violently shaking slave ship, the extremely uncomfortable feeling of fatigue, which made her want to die. Ugh! Sana rushed to the uninhabited area next to her and vomited. Gwyl was startled and quickly put away the sachet, patting Sana's back like an adult. Sana, are you okay? Ugh! It's okay. Ugh! Maybe I drank beer. Sana vomited so much that she vomited out everything she had just eaten, and tears came out. She also drank alcohol secretly in the small fishing village, so she took Gwyl to take a sip, but she didn't expect that the beer brewed by Master Roman was completely different from the beer she had drunk before. After taking a sip, the refreshing feeling that rushed straight to her head made her walk a little unsteady and her face flushed. Fortunately, her skin color was wheat-colored, which was not very noticeable compared to the fair and tender Gwyl, otherwise Cal would glare at her again. It was really unlucky. Cal would definitely be angry when he saw her in such a mess. He couldn't understand him. Sana thought to herself, why did he let her make friends with Gwyl? Why did he let her behave well in front of Master Roman? She didn't dislike the former, and got along very well with Gwyl, perhaps because they were the two youngest girls in the Origin Manor, so they could naturally play together because they could confide in each other, but let her go with the latter. She wanted to go around Master Roman. The Lord was in a hurry every day, as if he had endless things to do, and he was decisive and sharp in the face of anything, like a sharp fish-killing knife. Cal wanted her to touch a knife. Oh my God! He was a noble lord, and she didn't have the courage of Cal. Did she have to stop Master Roman just to say hello? That would definitely not work. How would he look at her? Impatient or disgusted? Would he kick her 3 meters away? She was not Gwyler. Even if Gwyler didn't dare to call Master Roman's name to his face, she could still smile in front of him. After drinking, she dared to pull her in front of Master Roman and stare at him directly, and then she could be safe and sound even if she was found out. But she was so scared that she held her breath, fearing that the smell of alcohol would come out of her mouth. She didn't dare to move at all during the whole process, let alone have any expression. I really envy Gwyler's good luck. She can actually become Master Roman's valet. If I were also a valet, would I be able to be like Gwyler? Alas, Sana, don't let your imagination run wild, you have to cheer up, life is already very good now, there are still so many delicious foods today. Although I vomited, my stomach is empty now, and I can eat more delicious foods. It's okay to become a maid in the manor in the future. Those maids are good at work and pretty, let's work hard in this direction. Chapter 75 People I Helped. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gwyl. In the noisy environment, Gwyl heard someone calling her. The voice was so familiar that she couldn't forget it. Gwaile turned her head and looked. She saw a haggard woman standing in the crowd and looking at her. "Mom!" Gwaile waved her slender arms happily at the woman. Seema Nova saw her eldest daughter's lively appearance, and her face also showed kindness, and nodded slightly to Gwaile. She had nothing to do, but she accidentally saw Gwaile's figure shuttling in the crowd, so she called her. Her daughter was indeed not possessed by the devil, otherwise, how could the kind and generous Lord bring her out of the mountains and make her a close servant? This is a great gift and honor, since Gwaile became the Master's close servant. Master Moore has been very kind to their family. Not only did they wipe out all the debts, but they also gave their family a sheep. The sheep was later sold to Master Roman by her husband for a silver coin. This is all thanks to Gwaile. Her husband seemed to have changed and said this all day long. Seema Nova also agreed with this statement. This is all thanks to Gwaile. Master Moore is a good man. The Lord is also a great man. And her daughter, a promising daughter, can survive in the mountains. It's great. Seema Nova touched the corners of her eyes that were a little sore. She is now a kitchen helper in the big kitchen, cooking for the laborers every day, and today, because of the celebration, there are more things to do, because it is very hard. Deacon Seth brought the little clerk Jimmy and told them that they can eat anything here. After finishing work, they can take away any 10 kilograms of food that they haven't finished and bring it home. Seema Nova picked up a piece of roasted and crispy lamb leg, which was brushed with maltose. She likes to eat sweet food. The sweet, salty and crispy lamb leg snapped in her mouth. In the past 30 years, there has never been a day like today, worth remembering for her. Not only her, but this carnival celebration is destined to become an indelible memory in the hearts of everyone in Sturt Town. Until many years have passed, these old people have passed away, these middle-aged people have grown old, these young people have either started a family or died on the battlefield, and all the children have become the new pillars of society, but they will always remember the noon when Master Roman said that all food would be unlimited and he would drink with them. "Sana, are you full?" Gwaile asked after greeting her mother. "Burp, I feel 70% full." Sana burped. "The taste of food is really good." "Stop eating. Roman said you'll die of overeating. Let me have a beer." Sana reached out to grab the cup and was about to scoop a cup of beer from the barrel, but Gwaile stopped her immediately. "You vomited just now. Don't drink now." That she was unexpectedly serious, Sana took her hand back embarrassedly. It was really uncomfortable just now. She felt that she almost vomited the fish bladder in her body. "Are you full?" Gwaile asked again. Seeing Sana nod, she whispered to her, "Come with me to a place to meet a few people." Seeing Gwaile's mysterious look, Sana couldn't help but become curious. At Gwaile's signal, she stuffed lamb legs, pork elbows, and beef into the cloth bag, and picked up a thick cloth bag of fragrant and soft white bread. She picked up 2 empty barrels that were originally filled with maltose, scooped half a bucket of oatmeal porridge into them, and scooped beer into the other bucket. The 2 of them left the threshing ground with the food strapped to their backs. On the way, they met the guards who were on duty. Their duty was to prevent farmers from stealing food. Originally, Roman planned to let everyone take away the leftovers, but how to divide it was a problem. This was a huge fortune, and even the leftovers were worth several gold coins. Let them distribute it themselves. Something big would happen, and it was normal to kill people during the fight. Roman had to forbid them to take it out privately. Of course, the guards would not search them. If they were able to avoid being discovered, the guards would not pursue them specifically. This was an unspoken rule, and the cunning and stupid farmers must have understood this. However, when the guards saw the 2 bulging cloth bags carried by Gwaile and the 2 small wooden barrels held by Sana, the corners of their mouths twitched slightly. "Miss Gwaile," she immediately said, "this is what Master Roman asked me to deliver to the Origin Manor, that there were no people in the Master's manor for a long time. There were some slaves on duty in the barn, but are you going to feed the pigs?" The 2 guards did not stop him. "Don't tell Master Roman," Gwaile added, and then she realized that her lie had been exposed. One of the guards said helplessly, "Miss Gwaile, do you want my help?" Gwaile carried 2 cloth bags, sneaking like a thief, shaking her head like a rattle. "Maybe you don't have any impression of me, but I used to be a hunter. The guard added, Guile was slightly stunned, took a look, and found that he was indeed familiar. Captain Dota told me in advance, can you drive? The guard pulled over a bullock cart. I can. Sanaa volunteered. Miss Guile, be careful, I hope you have a safe journey. Guile and Sanaa put the things on the cart and drove the bullock cart towards the deep mountains. They parked the bullock cart at the foot of the mountain, tied the rope to a tree, and then carried the things up the mountain step by step. So tired. Who are you going to see? Just halfway through, Sanaa began to complain. The things she carried were much heavier than Guile, as much as 30 or 40 kilograms, and going up the mountain was a huge burden for her. Guile bit her lip and whispered, the person who helped me. She was quite familiar with the path up the mountain. At this time, there was a rustling sound from the bushes next to her, as if some large beast was moving. Sanaa was startled, and then heard a word coming from there. I didn't help you much, Guiler. You saved yourself. A figure walked out of the dense bushes. He had handsome features, his beard hadn't been trimmed for a long time, his expression was full of vicissitudes, and his shabby outfit was full of stories. Uncle Dick. Guiler's little hand loosened, the bag fell to the ground, she ran towards him, and then hugged Dick tightly. Dick sighed, Guiler, we said you shouldn't come here. You are now Roman Lick Armor's attendant, and it is not suitable for you to meet us. Roman won't be angry. Guiler whispered. It would be better if you also went down the mountain. Dick shook his head and said, we will cause trouble for him. Chapter 76. Has it changed? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dick brought Guiler and Sanaa to Garen's hut. The dirty doctor's beard was big, dirty, and shaggy, and he smelled like herbs. No one knew his exact age, but Garen must have lived longer than the great thief Borg. Such a person who is proficient in medicine is highly respected wherever he goes. Dick and Jet knew Garen's identity in the past, and Dota and the hunters know it now, but they were very tacit and never mentioned it to Guiler, perhaps because they were worried about scaring her. Grandpa Garen, I see you are here. Guiler peeked in at the door. Half of Garen's face was covered by his beard, and his eyes were kind and bright. He asked Guiler to stand in front of him, and then pinched her arm. You have grown taller and your body has become healthier. Very good, this is very good. The dirty doctor nodded repeatedly. Guile took the cloth bag from Dick with a smile on her face. She said, I brought you some food. Eat first. I'll go call Brother Jet over. No, I'm here. Sanaa was startled. Why didn't she hear anything? Jet appeared silently behind her like a top predator. His leather armor was so tattered that his original appearance could not be seen. He was of medium build but had a strong sense and his eyes were full of indifference. For some reason, he reminded Sanaa of a profession called butcher. The cold expression that ignored life and death scared her so much that she took a step back. Jet just glanced at the little girl that Guile brought. He came to the door, squatted down, opened the cloth bag, took out the lamb leg from it, and then took a big bite and tore off a large piece of meat. Jet made very little noise when he ate. He chewed and swallowed very seriously, like a ruthless eating machine. Dick and Garen were not polite either. The three of them sat on the ground, and took the beef chunks and pork elbows from the cloth bags and ate them heartily. Guiler was busy pouring beer for them from a wooden barrel. The cool and clear beer swayed slightly in the cup, and Jet and Dick tilted their necks to drink it all, and the dirty Dr. Garen couldn't resist the temptation of the wine. But Guiler always felt that the bearded men drank at least half of the beer. There may not be a lack of meat in the mountains, but there is definitely a lack of various condiments. And the staple food is also hard to find, so they can only eat mountain products and game, not to mention beer. They were able to exchange some necessary living supplies through the relationship with hunters before, but because the hunters left, they began to become isolated and helpless again, like an island in the sea. Guiler has come here 4 or 5 times during this period, and comes back once a month. Each time she brought them a lot of food. Guiler could take a lot, but compared to them, it was still too little. Only Garen's life was not affected much. Every once in a while, farmers would still seek his help and send corresponding food or other items as rewards. Did Roman ask you to come this time? Dick asked after he had eaten and drunk enough. Guile was stunned and shook his head. I sneaked out. Dick was a little unconvinced. These things were a high-standard meal for any noble. In the past, Gwail brought only some white bread, meat slices and salt. Judging from the hardness of the bread, it was known that it was the rations that Gwail saved on weekdays, and the salt was also brought by her, and this time, it was in time for the move, and the amount was not small. Even beer was brought. There are so many things at the celebration. No one will find out if I steal some. Gwail explained. What celebration? This was Jet's second sentence. He looked up and asked. The celebration of summer harvest. Summer harvest? The three savages who didn't know the year looked at each other. They were so out of touch with the outside world that they only felt that midsummer had arrived, but the mountains were very cool, and they had no impression of the sowing and harvesting. Gwail chirped in their ears and was very excited, like a lively and lovely thrush, or a blue tit in the forest. She talked about the changes brought by Roman, the dozens of kilometers of flat roads built by hundreds of laborers after months of sweating, and the continuous transportation of salt. She talked about the Wandong people who were plateau people, while Sana was from the northern coast. She also talked about the lush wheat fields that looked like a golden ocean, and hundreds of thousands of kilograms of grain. The various delicacies at the celebration were countless and could not be eaten. When she came to visit them a long time ago, she often talked about these things. Dick and Garen didn't care in the past, but now they listened to them seriously and in a trance. You should go and see it too. Gwail said at last. I think what Gwail said makes sense. Garen said to Dick. Dick smiled bitterly. Jet, what do you think? Jet leaned against the door frame quietly. He looked at the quiet and cool forest. You can't just let your hard-earned martial arts go to waste in the mountains. Why not? Jet glanced at Garen. I started to use a sword at the age of 5, and I became a master of swordsmanship at the age of 18. Only a few of my peers can fight me. I believe in the gods, have the testimony of the Pope, and I am loyal to the King of Sinnoh. I swear to punish evil and slay demons. But now I have ended up like this. Do you think I am to blame for it? Garen coughed lightly. You are right, Jet, but, but. I didn't betray the gods, the Pope, or the King of Sinnoh. They betrayed themselves and me, and it would be a great shame for me to bleed for them. If holy light swordsmanship is a bloody swordsmanship that only kills innocent people, then I would rather never hold a sword again. His tone was as cold as stone. Roman wouldn't do that. She whispered. Jet glanced at her. You have to pay as much as you get. There is no such thing as getting something for nothing in this world. You will eventually face what I faced in the past. You can't help yourself, and you can only bite the bullet and convince yourself, but you can't deceive your heart. In the end, you realize that you have made a mistake, your hands are stained with blood, and you want to make amends but find that you are powerless to do so. So Roman won't do that. She stared at Jet unconvinced. Do you think he keeps you as a pet that can only sing and dance? She was very sad and cried. Why can't what Roman wants to do be what I want to do? Jet. Dick warned him with a bad face. It seems that you are living well in the noble manner. Jet calmed down. At least so far, the Lord did not force her to do things she didn't want to do. He thought that the Witch of Doom would never come back after being taken away, but Gwyler came back soon. She was wearing a beautiful long dress and was getting healthier and healthier. She said that Roman was building a barn and didn't let her get close, so he asked her to grow vegetables. She found an opportunity to sneak out. He only took a look to know that Gwyler had not been abused or hurt. Jet thought, but so what? The conqueror used virtue to restrain barbaric violence. He gave the knights the spirit of chivalry, made them understand dedication and sacrifice, set an example for all nobles, and made them elegant and kind. But what about after the conqueror died? The knights are still armed with violence, they only shout virtues but never fight for virtues. The nobles are still nobles, they are high above, they don't know the sufferings of the world. How can they understand true compassion and kindness? Has it changed? Has it not changed? Has it changed? Has it not changed? Jet constantly, repeatedly, and cyclically questioned this era. Chapter 77 Xia Geng. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gwail and Sanaa left quickly, the forest returned to its past tranquility. The child would not come too often. She would come only when she had enough white bread. Moreover, the journey was long and bumpy. For a girl in her teens, this was a huge challenge. She thought she came secretly without Roman's knowledge, but they all knew that Roman allowed her to come. How could a witch missing for half a day not attract attention? They silently accepted Gwail's kindness. She was just repaying their kindness in the past, but those 2 years were enough for Gwail to repay them for half of their lives without regrets, until the youngest of them, Jet, also died in the mountains, and perhaps she would stop this move, just like when the great thief Borg died. The Witch of Doom cried so tragically. Every time she went into the mountains, after visiting them, she would also stay in front of Borg's grave for a while. 2 more days passed, all the things Gwail brought were eaten up by Dick, Garen and Jet. They returned to their old lives. They relied on hunting and gathering to feed themselves every day. That day, Jet left his residence with a broken sword. Dick met him and noticed the unusualness of this deserter. "Are you going down the mountain?" Jet's expression was indifferent, as if he was used to life and death. He did not explain, but just nodded slightly. The sentence, "Why can't what Roman wants to do be what I want to do?" has been echoing in his mind these days. He did not believe in miracles, but if that was true, he had heard about the changes that Gwail talked about, and he had seen Gwail's changes with his own eyes, so why not try to believe it? Anyway, it doesn't cost money. Dick felt relieved for some reason. "Then go and see." Jet walked out of the forest behind him. It was like walking out of a cool and warm familiar world and entering another hot and uneasy strange world. The scorching sun in midsummer was particularly dazzling. This gradually rising temperature made it difficult for him to adapt. Looking at the road in front of him that led in all directions, Jet didn't know where to go. After standing for a moment, he walked straight ahead. He walked for half an hour, and when he passed those lands, he saw many oxen and draft horses coming and going in the fields. 2 large animals pulled the heavy iron plows side by side, and the plow head split the soil, bringing out most of the weeds, tree roots, and stones, and carved a very deep and long furrow. The plowboard piled up a lot of black soil along the way, just like scraping butter. After plowing to the end, the piled-up black soil formed a mound as the boundary of the land. Looking down from a high altitude, it was like neatly arranged wide noodles, forming a unique and different appearance. Busy. This was Jet's first impression. All farmers were busy with summer plowing, and the main crop was soybeans. He couldn't understand the strange heavy plow, but he could see that all the farmers' faces were filled with joy and enthusiasm, and the numb and dull expressions were swept away. Although they were also working under the scorching sun, their mental outlook was completely different from the past. Many farmers also noticed the unusual Jet. Mainly, when everyone was busy, they saw a man wearing broken armor and holding a broken sword strolling around, which looked out of place, but their farming tasks were heavy, and they had no time to care about other things. The Lord assigned corresponding tasks to all of them. This summer farming required an additional 4,000 acres of land to be plowed, including the previous 2,000 acres, a total of 6,000 acres. This was a national labor, and all the people who could be mobilized basically participated in it, even the people from the salt mine were temporarily transferred out. They were divided into 6 farming teams. Each team had about 200 people and was responsible for 1,000 acres of land. They were in charge of a manager appointed by the Lord himself. If the farming task was not completed within the deadline, all the people in that team would be punished. Whether they were ordinary farmers or managers, they would be whipped 50 times and then hung for a whole day. And more importantly, their Lord also brought a farming team. This means that if the Lord fails to complete the task, he will be punished accordingly. First whipped, then hung up for a whole day. This time, the pressure was immediately given to the farmers under the Lord. Some of them were sweating profusely and exerted their full strength. They were afraid that the Lord would whip them for being too slow. Of course, as long as the farmers with a little experience can calculate based on the farming tasks and time, they can complete the task within the specified time as long as they work harder. After all, farming is a labor task with a huge difference between the upper and lower limits. The most arduous step is to clean up the tree roots, stones, grass roots and other debris in the soil. Striving for excellence is a kind of labor. doing things perfunctorily is also a kind of labor. In the final analysis, the more meticulous a job is, the more terrifying the time and energy it takes according to the diminishing marginal benefits. Assuming that a perfect piece of land can produce 100 kilograms of grain, a less perfect piece of land can only produce 70 kilograms of grain, but to increase the yield by 30 kilograms and make the land perfect, it may be necessary to invest twice the labor force. If there are not enough people, the working hours can only be extended. Given the problem of insufficient labor, it is natural not to do so meticulously. This is a fact that Roman has to accept. You can't blame others for being lazy when you assign such a heavy task. Of course, there are very few people who are really willing to be lazy. The scene of the harvest is still vivid, and now there is no need for Roman to explain. The farmers also understand the benefits of this way of farming. The more you invest now, the more you will harvest in the future. Most farmers feel that they understand everything, and they don't need to be urged, and they are scrambling to work one by one. Now working with a full stomach is completely different from working without a full stomach. Before, they hope to see the yield of this round of soybeans as soon as possible and finally determine the relationship between labor and production. The urgency is no less than the eager groom's desire for the bride. Jet has always felt a strange feeling along the way. He can't say it specifically. He thought it was because the farmer's mental outlook has changed, but he soon found that it was not the case. He saw those farmers who divided the work and cooperated, those who plowed the land, those who raked the land, those who weeded the land, those who moved stones and tree roots. They did not move them by manpower, but relied on horse-drawn carriages to clean up all the debris in the soil. Later, he thought that the strange feeling was caused by the farm tools in the hands of the farmers. The sound made when the steel hit the stone was very crisp. He knew at a glance that it must be hundredfold steel. It requires experienced blacksmiths to spend a lot of effort and forge it hundreds of times, but the question is, this is originally a processing technology for weapons and armor. Why is it applied to farm tools? Would other nobles spend such a high cost to forge farm tools? Do you know how expensive steel is? How many blacksmiths work hard to make so many farm tools? Until the end, when Jet saw the figure at the edge of the field, he directed all the farmers to coordinate their work. Jet finally understood where the strange feeling came from. Just like a pile of loose sand in the past was gathered by an invisible giant hand and turned into a solid and sharp heavy plow, it came down with a momentum as powerful as a bamboo. It fell suddenly. It split the earth directly. Chapter 78. Be loyal to me from now on. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Roman was wearing a linen short-sleeved shirt, half dressed like a farmer. He said to Jet, "You came to me to help me." Jet really had no intention of doing that now, so he could only say, "I'm not here to find you." "What are you here for?" "Looking for guile." Jet looked away and looked at the land covered with wheat stubble. The wheat stubble was like a broken sword on a battlefield, pointing to the sky, enough to make people sick, and the density was extremely exaggerated. "I just came to see." Whether those situations were true, he might have come here to expose Guile's lies, but now he found that he couldn't disprove them. Jet asked, "Do you want to plant beans?" He saw the piles of beans, all soaked in water, and someone sprinkled salt into the water. He also saw more manure piles, and carts of brown soil were pulled over continuously. They mixed the soil with manure in an orderly manner and raked it into the ground, but he didn't understand the specific intention of these practices. "Yes." Roman nodded. "He will plant 6,000 mu of soybeans next, 10 gene of bean seeds per mu, and a yield of 150 gene per mu is considered a win." Siggy town is special. It is surrounded by mountains and is a basin. There are large plains inside the basin with fertile soil, which is a natural grain production base. But the range of activities for 2,000 people is at most tens or hundreds of kilometers in radius, and most places have not been developed. Roman has to build a road to dig a salt mine. The soil here is very fertile, which greatly improves grain production. Even so, it can't grow 30 gene of wheat seeds. Now Roman no longer has confidence in the production capacity of this land. He summed up his experience. The essence is still the raw land, insufficient fertilizer and spring wheat. If it is changed to winter wheat, the tillering rate will be increased, and the overall grain production will increase by 30% to 50%. Roman chose to plant soybeans not only for yield, but also for land conservation. This round of wheat consumed a lot of soil fertility. Legumes have the function of fixing nitrogen, and land planted with legumes will increase subsequent food production. Sowing soybeans in the summer can be harvested in late autumn. The basin terrain is closed, and the plateaus and mountains are enough to block the cold air from the north. The winter in Siggy Town comes later than other places, and Roman will use all the cultivated land to plant winter wheat before the arrival of early winter. Most areas on this land, including Siggy Town, grow spring wheat, that is, wheat sown in spring can be harvested in 100 days, with the main feature of fast sowing and fast harvesting. Siggy Town has also continued the farming methods of the outside world, and has been doing so for decades. This made Roman speechless. People in the outside world grow spring wheat because the earth is cold in winter, and wheat seeds cannot survive the winter, so they can only be planted in spring. Why are you joining in the fun in your basin? Roman came to Siggy Town in early spring before the winter was over, and he found that the temperature here was not unacceptably cold in winter. Spring wheat can be harvested in 100 days, while winter wheat needs 240 days, an extra winter and half a spring, but the growth time is not important. In winter, it is impossible to grow crops, and at best some cold-resistant vegetables can be grown. Winter wheat is better than spring wheat in terms of yield and quality, so Roman temporarily stopped the work of paving and reclamation, and concentrated all his efforts on a large amount of composting and fertilizing. This time he put a lot of effort. At least 1,000 kilograms of fertilizer should be applied to each acre of land to make these thousands of acres of land fertile, and relying on manure piles alone is definitely not enough, because at least 6 million organic fertilizers are needed. Roman had surveyed the specific conditions along the way before the construction team paved the road. He used the comprehensive knowledge of farming and collection to find that the swamp between the town of Siggy and the salt mine was a eutrophic swamp. This kind of swamp means that as long as the water is drained out, it can become the best fertile land. Later, when the construction team was digging soil to pave the road and fill the swamp, they also dug out thick peat soil. Peat is natural organic fertilizer. A large amount of peat can be directly mixed with a small amount of manure, and the effect is better than pure manure. Farmers now have shovels and hoes made of steel, so it is easy to mine peat. The only problem is that the labor force is not enough again. For example, the cattle and horses have to plow the land, turn the land, mine peat, transport peat, and clean up the tree roots and stones in the land. There is nothing we can do about it. For Roman, no matter how much labor there is, it is not enough. This is the pain of development, so we have to make these cattle and horses suffer. In order to restore their physical strength, Roman began to let the people in the livestock shed feed them with refined grain. During this round of summer plowing, he will plan a pasture for them to grow a lot of forage grass. Anyway, it will be fine after this period of time. But Roman did not expect Jet to come. He asked, "Your wheat harvest is great, and the beans are about to be planted. Will the people here still starve in the future?" Roman looked at his relationship with Jet again and found that it was still below 20%. It has improved, but not much. The real purpose is not the wine, and this is definitely not what he wants to ask. Roman said as a matter of course not. As long as they obey my orders, they will live well. If they resist, they will die. What are you going to do next? Roman's words were sonorous and powerful. Buy slaves, farm, mine, build an army. I have a lot of things to do. I can't finish them all in a short time. I want to build this place into an eternal city. I want everyone on this land to yearn for this place. Jet didn't expect Roman to tell him all his future plans. He was in a trance after being shocked by those bold words. You are building an army for what? To protect this land? Defense? No. It's an attack. Whoever dares to set foot here, I will destroy him. Whoever dares to resist me, I will destroy him. But this is just the beginning. What I want is conquest. Rule every piece of land I see. My army will trample on everyone, and make everyone on this land obey me and be loyal to me. I will step on the whole land under my feet in the future. Jet, my apostle, come and build such an army for me. Roman opened his right fist to Jet. The young palm was not broad, but it was strong and powerful, with distinct knuckles. The skin on the palm was a little rough, with calluses on it. The scorching sun mercilessly burned the earth, just like the surging will of the overlord. Roman stood at the edge of the field and told a deserter about his grand vision for the future. He warmly and frankly invited the deserter to join. He knew what he was about to do and knew his mission. He would achieve a transcendent achievement that would make everyone dumbfounded, and the kings and generals of the past and present could only look up to him. A great figure that is unparalleled in the past and present will rise here. That figure will personally forge the supreme throne in the future. That figure will ascend the throne surrounded by ministers and under the attention of the masses. The invincible army will crown that figure. From now on, everyone on this land will only shout one name. Whenever he thought of that magnificent scene, Roman felt his blood boiling. He could not resist the strong urge to smash this era with one punch and press the whole land under his crotch, and everything depends on the people he rules and the people who are loyal to him. Jet, kneel down and be loyal to me from now on. Chapter 79 3 Cobblers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jet was frightened by Roman's strong desire. After he became a deserter, he swore not to swear allegiance to anyone again. He hated the bloody battlefield. Killing the enemy did not bring him glory and pride. Jet felt pain. He always believed that the Emerald War launched by Sinnoh Kingdom against Songyu Kingdom was an unjust war. Although Sinnoh was a kingdom favored by the gods, Songyu was just a cursed kingdom and a barbaric place where monsters were rampant. He still believed so. Injustice is injustice, but the swordsman who came from a commoner family was humble and had no say. He led his team of swordsmen to the battlefield without knowing anything. The military knight ordered them to attack, and he realized at that time that their enemies were just unarmed miners who could not even afford iron tools, and were not enemies at all. He had no choice but to attack and wipe out those enemies. Then the counterattack of Songyu Kingdom came, and a strange wizard drove a winged monster to the battlefield. They fought in that mountain area for a full 6 months, slaughtered all the residents there, burned and destroyed all the villages, but when he heard the order to retreat, he was stunned. They fought for so long, and both sides suffered losses. 3 of the 10 swordsmen in his team died and 4 were captured, but he still went against his conscience and sacrificed his life to conquer this territory for Sinnoh. But now he has to withdraw. He rushed into the military command post to question the military commanders composed of knights and priests. Perhaps his heroic combat performance and dazzling achievements improved his status. Those generals treated him very well, just like treating future colleagues, and explained a lot to him. Jet, there is an emerald vein buried in the land under your feet. We have not been able to estimate the specific reserves, but the scale must be huge. Once those green gems are mined, how much more help will the future Songyu army have? If every Songyu warrior wears an emerald, they will be immune to the invasion of foreign evil diseases, which can quickly restore their combat effectiveness. In the future, if Songyu continues to fight with Sinnoh, we will be at a great disadvantage, so for the sake of our children, Songyu must not mine it. But this is the territory of the Songyu Kingdom after all. If we want to occupy it by force, the Queen of Songyu will never tolerate our behavior. The local war will evolve into a full-scale war. Even if the King of Sinnoh and the Pope are confident that they can defeat Songyu and capture the Vampire Queen, the 3 Grand Dukes of the Black Iron Kingdom will never sit idly by. The Grand Duke of Fury has now sent his eldest son Maker to find out. We must consider the overall situation. He suddenly realized that the enemy of Sinnoh is not Black Iron, not Songyu, not the Emerald Mine, but the civilians who have lived here for generations. They burned, killed, and looted, burning this area to a white ground, destroying all livelihood facilities, and killing all the people in this area. In the next 10 years or so, the Songyu Kingdom will lose the ability to mine the emerald veins. Sinnoh retreated, but Sinnoh won. He walked out of the command post in a daze. He heard the generals behind him discussing his achievements. As long as the swordsman with outstanding military achievements could return to Sinnoh alive, he would be rewarded and canonized, and from then on he would get rid of the identity of the swordsman captain and become a glorious noble or knight. But he did not return alive. During the retreat, the army of the Songyu Kingdom besieged them. In that tragic and chaotic retreat, too many people died. The genius swordsman who shone on the battlefield also disappeared. Only Beluo he knew where he was going, but bro he would not tell anyone. Faced with Roman's urgent invitation, Jet did not agree. he did not refuse again, but just said to give him some time. He was afraid that he would become an executioner who killed innocent people again. Roman had originally planned to go up the mountain and visit the thatched cottage 3 times in person. He must take down these 3 cobblers anyway, but Roman had no time, so he had to delay again and again. Now Jet came down by himself. This made him very happy. Roman never liked the kind of chaste and heroic women who were inflexible and rigid in thinking for someone or a certain concept. The fool who grew up in the feudal dregs will not be persuaded. Roman has always only liked the kind of chaste and heroic women who are always loyal to him and his ideas and unconditionally support him. This is the new era model of discarding the dregs and taking the essence. Roman highly praised Jet's hesitation. Your hesitation means that your attitude is not firm. If you are not firm, you can be poached, and you can be persuaded with a little tricks and a few words. Then what will happen next is a matter of course. I tease you a few times, I don't believe you won't get wet. I'll give you 2 days, you have to come to my manor and help me train the army, understand? Roman didn't even take care of the farm work in the field. He put his arm around Jet's shoulders, ignoring the latter's shabby and dirty appearance. Jet was very confused by Roman's enthusiastic attitude. I said I would consider it, but are you too quick to appoint him? As if he would definitely agree. At least give him 3 days. 2 days is not enough for me to betray the me who swore not to be loyal to anyone in the past. Roman blocked his mouth with an unquestionable attitude. Jet opened his mouth. He was not good at speaking, so he could only say, I want the right to withdraw, that this is his bottom line. If he finds that what Roman does is not to his liking, he will leave openly, and Roman cannot restrict his freedom. Okay. Roman agreed very straightforwardly. Can a cooked duck still fly? After this period of construction, the facilities of Origin Manor are extremely complete. Roman attaches great importance to Jet's arrival. He raised Jet's status to the level of a knight in battle, with a separate room, unlimited food, a male and female servant, unconditional equipment support, and the most important status. So when Jet came here, he was shocked by this high standard treatment, and by the way, shocked another person brought by Jet. Uncle Dick. Guile ran over happily and knocked Dick, who was not prepared, off guard. Guile. Dick's eyes softened when he saw Guile. She said crisply, Uncle Dick will live in the manor in the future. Dick smiled bitterly and said, it depends on whether your lord is willing to take in me, the master eater. If a dog eats his master and his teeth are stained with human blood, who would be willing to be its second master? Dick, I don't care about your past, I only care about your future. Welcome you. Roman said sonorously. He strode over with his head held high, in a very good mood. These two are truly extraordinary people, both with superb martial arts, otherwise how could they survive in the mountains for so long? Although the physical condition has declined in the dangerous environment, it can still defeat Green and Aaron together. The peak period of the expedition knight is often between 25 and 40 years old, and the more powerful expedition knight can extend his peak period. Jet is just 30 years old, while Dick is nearly 40 years old, and it is difficult to improve his condition. Roman disagreed. He valued the 2 men's war experience more. 2 extraordinary people are not very useful. Even if a 5th level war knight came, he couldn't swing a 200 gene forging hammer all day. Chapter 80 Merchants and Pirates. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The only thing that made Roman unhappy was that Garen still didn't come down the mountain. If he wanted to live a hermit life, let him go. Someone had accompanied him in the mountains before. Now it's impossible. Now he is the only one left. Humans are social creatures. Those who live alone are either gods or beasts. Roman looked at Garen and thought he was a human with social needs. He didn't believe that old man could stay for long. He first asked the 2 to wash and tidy up, put on clean clothes, cut their messy hair, and shave their stubble. When they looked brand new, Roman handed the 2 steel swords forged by Lux to them, no enchantment, but tempered by thousands of hammers. Dick's sword is a classic knight's sword with a cross guard, a straight blade, and quite wide, but Jet's sword is different. It is a thin sword with a narrow blade, extremely high toughness, and extremely sharp. The difference between the 2 swords made Jet's heart stagnate, but he could not see anything more from Roman's red eyes and calm face, so he had to accept this rapier that was most suitable for him. His original sword was unusable and tattered. More importantly, it was not his sword. but he had robbed it from the Tsanyue kingdom to conceal his identity, but in the eyes of this new lord, all his disguises seemed useless. Jet felt a sense of fear and respect for no reason. He felt that this young lord did have some strange power. The two extraordinary people who got the brand new equipment knelt on one knee and kissed the back of Roman's hand, and quickly completed this simple and short loyalty ceremony. Cao stood by and looked at them enviously. He was not qualified now, and the trainees did not have the basic conditions to become a war knight, but he knew that Roman had high hopes for him, and he would let Aaron and Green take him to train every day. His training was different from that of the guards. He trained real fighting methods, while the guards had to train military posture and demeanor. Roman attached great importance to discipline and made everyone become a whole. After 100 soldiers were dispersed, they had to reorganize the team in the shortest possible time. No matter how badly they were, they could not lose their basic combat capabilities. 4 or 5 people could reorganize the formation and launch a counterattack when they gathered together. These requirements were extremely difficult to achieve and required a long training time. At first, the guards spent half a day training just to complete the collective command to turn right. They could forget it the next day. It was extremely difficult to engrave these things into their bones. Only pain and sweat could make them form instinctive reactions. Roman was not in a hurry. He did not have high requirements for the army now. He appointed Jet as the chief instructor of the guards and Dick as the deputy instructor and part-time night teacher. Not only the guards, but also Aaron and Green were included in the training, but farming was the priority at the moment. Today is the 145th day since Roman came to Siggy town. Summer farming races against time. Roman also led a farming team responsible for 1,000 acres of land, but I don't know if it was because of the pressure on the farmers that they actually completed the deep plowing and sowing tasks one day ahead of schedule. Roman was relieved and gave them a day off. He also took time out to work with Jet to develop a basic training plan for the future army. Jet's talent is standardization, and his skill is military training. He may not know how to farm, but he knows how to train an army. 4. The cues and physical training that Roman mentioned, Jet only took a few days to master them and understand their intentions. These training methods are very advanced, for the current era. Because Roman does not want a conscripted army, but a standing army, a professional army. As long as the army is formed, it will be a dimensionality reduction strike for most nobles. What Roman wants is to quickly build an army that is both extremely disciplined and extremely powerful. Phalanx march, Q assembly, 100-meter sprint, long-distance cross-country. One training project after another was formed in the discussion between the two. It was on this day, a canoe floated to the dock of Sjur town. Carrying Dakin, who had not been seen for 2 months, he looked much more dejected, haggard, with dark eye sockets, and he looked like he hadn't slept well for many days. Roman met Dakin at the Origin Manor. I haven't seen you for 2 months. I'm still waiting for you to send me slaves. He had a calm expression, his back straight, and his arms resting on the armrests. After realizing that the slave trader had not appeared for a long time, Roman had expected it. Most likely something happened. He didn't hang himself on a tree. In fact, he asked Mori last month to stop purchasing livestock and bring him a large number of slaves when he came to Sig town next time. During this period of time, the small merchant ships passing through Sig town have brought him dozens of slaves. Intermittently, it's just that the overall efficiency is not as high as Dakin. Sig town has a bad geographical advantage. If the running tracks of all merchants in the entire land are regarded as a huge trade network, then the location of Sig town is only next to the edge of this trade network. Business is not developed here. No one even named this basin. Only the Grand Duke of Split Armor had the right to do so. But he did not do so. Even the map of the Black Iron Kingdom did not have the name of the town of Sjur. This is truly a nameless place. If the tributary of the Bro River had not rushed through the Silver Dragon Canyon, there would not even be a caravan coming to the town of Siggy. This place would have become a completely isolated paradise, with mountains enough to block all traffic. Every place needs to develop. Among them, population is the top priority. Dakin's face was pale, as if he had lost his parents. It seemed that he had suffered a great blow and no longer had the spirit of the past. Lord Roman, I originally prepared 700 slaves for you, but something went wrong halfway. He exchanged all the more than 10,000 kilograms of salt transported from Siggy town for golden coins. Because of the turbulent times, the gold coins he exchanged were more than he expected. more than 70 gold coins. He spared no effort to exchange these gold coins for slaves and rented 5 cargo ships in the bay port. He spent a long time and bought 700 slaves. He was full of joy and fantasized about transporting these slaves to Siggy town, when those gold coins were doubled and his worth was raised to more than 100 gold coins. As expected, an accident happened. In order to save time, he took the risk of going through the Jihai. As long as he passed through that inland sea, he could save at least 10 days of travel. This was a great temptation for commercial transportation. When those slave ships were sailing in the Jihai, then they were robbed by Arctic pirates. Those guards he hired who seemed to be strong and brave surrendered without even making a decent resistance. Because the Arctic pirates were stronger and braver than them.